Welcome everyone. Bienvenidos a Español con Mr. Rios. This is my digital unit resource site on the topic of La Cultura de América Latina. I chose this unit because culture is such an extensive and deep topic that I would have very little time to teach it. Therefore, I thought it'd be a great idea for my students to become experts on a certain country in Latin America and present it to their peers through a multimedia production. This unit is designated for Spanish to native speakers because at this point they should be able to speak the language fluently and have some background about the culture. This is the place for you to meet me. I am a student at Cal State Fullerton and I aspire to be a teacher. Let's get familiar with the topic. So the topic of culture in Latin America, La Cultura de América Latina, encompasses plenty, considering that there are 18 Spanish-speaking countries and 19 including Spain, and the term culture, it not only incorporates history, but tradition, food, languages, you name it. There is so much that is encompassed by that word. As far as the California World Language Standards, the targeted ones are Communication Standard 3, Presentational Communication, whose goal is for students to present information in a variety of topics and multiple purposes in culturally appropriate ways, given that with this unit, students will create a multimedia presentation about the culture of a Latin American country. The second standard is Culture Standard 2, Cultural Products, Practices, and Perspectives. The goal is for students to interact with cultural competence, demonstrate understanding, and use target language to investigate, explain, and reflect on the relationships among products cultures produce and the perspectives that underlie them. As I mentioned previously, this unit plan is implemented towards my Spanish speakers. They generally tend to be 10th and 11th graders. There could be a couple 9th graders, maybe one senior, because they are expected to fluently speak Spanish. This page explains what Spanish is. It starts off with a couple of jokes to keep students engaged into the website, and then I explain what Spanish is. Starting off, it is a language that derived from Latin and originated in the Iberian Peninsula. With more than 400 million speakers, it is the second most spoken language worldwide. That being said, the content in the Spanish class is super diverse, not only because it is a subject, but also because it is a language in itself and a method of communication. Therefore, aspects that are encompassed in this course include grammar, culture of Latin America, the different categorization of words, their respective rules for placing accents, the cultural components, which include the independence of different countries, literary periods, different forms of literatures, which we will engage in through various read-alouds and close readings of Latin American and Spanish authors. Overall, this Spanish class emphasizes the core four literacy areas: reading, writing, speaking, and listening, and we will employ them through our cultural and grammatical studies in this course. Here I included a video on the identity of Latin America, and I wanted to incorporate the rules for placing accents on words because that is going to be something very crucial in this class. Alright, we have arrived to the useful links. This page provides a variety of resources not only for students but also their respective families to access additional support regarding the content area and student well-being. My role as an educator goes far beyond the content of Spanish, and I want my students and their families to feel supported with resources necessary outside the classroom as well. Starting off on the left-hand side, we have content resources. The first one being El Diccionario de la Real Academia Española, which is a reliable tool for students to look up the meaning of a word, given that Spanish could be a new language for many and they might not be familiar. Next up, we have Lingui, which is a Spanish to English and vice versa translator, which is much more reliable than Google Translate, and it also pronounces the words for students so they can hear the pronunciation, which strongly appeals to auditory learners. Next, we have a site for Spanish verb conjugations, which conjugates different words into different tenses and subject pronouns. And then lastly, Reglas de Ortografía. It provides the grammar and spelling rules for the Spanish language for students to reference. The middle column we have for the parents. Given that the pandemic created a lot of addiction to technology, especially mobile devices and TikTok, this site is meant for parents to help support their students with finding leisure activities for them. Then we have helping your teen succeed in school. All parents want their students to be successful academically, and it aside from attending events, school events, and setting time to talk outside of school, it lists 10 ways that their parents can support students. Lastly, positive parenting. Since adulthood is right around the corner, we want parents to help build strong relationships with students. On the right-hand column, we have resources for student well-being. So keeping stress in check. Many students, like I previously mentioned, are sophomores and juniors, which are very intense period. This is an intense period in their high school career, so they might need breathing techniques, relaxation exercises. Suicide prevention. Given that bullying and peer pressure is pretty relevant in a high school setting, I want students to be able to access resources and the suicide prevention lifeline. We have teen drug rehab and teen guide to separation and divorce, given that family situations vary among students. Here at this subpage, we have digital interactives that include online activities and academic games to support students with the Spanish discipline and English learners as well. First off, we have Spanish Dict, which is an interactive program with different digital activities. Some of the features include assistance with translation, pronunciation, conjugation, and once again, this appeals to auditory learners because it allows them to hear the correct pronunciation of words. We've got Latin American countries, which is a fun game for students to learn where different countries are on the map. It can work as a quiz as well. Then we have a site called Pretérito versus Imperfecto, which are tenses that are commonly confused by students, so it helps them distinguish by reading a passage and selecting the verb they think is best. We'll go ahead and click on this one. So as you can see here, they're given two options. Fue, era, students read, and they select the one that they think applies. Cuando cal él era joven, and then it gives them the right answer. Bien. So going back to our digital website, we have Cultura at the very end, which is a way for students to learn about Latin American culture, which includes festivities like El Día de los Muertos or people like Frida Kahlo. And at the very bottom of the subpage is information and resources for language learners. We have English, which is a gadget for English learners to exercise their plural lingual activities and expand their English vocabulary. We also have some sentence starters in English on the left-hand side, Spanish on the right-hand side. This helps with scaffolding for students, and then classroom language in Spanish and English, which is a video because some students learn better by watching and hearing someone else. In this subpage, students will be able to find assistive technology to maximize the learning in the Spanish classroom. We have Speechify on the left-hand side, which is a software that reads text out loud to students. This includes PDFs. So if I ever have students if I ever assign a passage or a reading assignment, this can definitely work for students with dyslexia or that need help reading at a faster pace. Then we have markup on the right hand side. Sometimes it's hard to highlight when articles or readings are given on the computer, so markup is a tool for students to be able to do that. Last but not least, this is our final resource page, which includes information on the importance of internet safety, considering that it is the 21st century and teens are mostly on the internet. Then we have some sites for internet use. Prezi is a really cool one to create interactive presentations. Quizlet is an awesome one for studying. And then we have Scratch, which is one that is not commonly known, but this is a coding community that helps students develop problem solving and computational skills. And at the very bottom, we have Internet Safety in Spanish, which gives students suggestions to stay safe on the internet in Spanish. And then on the right hand side, a video of the dangers of the internet. Alright, we are now diving into the material for the unit on La Cultura de América Latina, starting off with this graphic organizer. On the left hand side, we have a button for students to be able to access the instructions for the graphic organizer, and to the right, resources for students to create it. We have a template that students will use to fill in. As you can see, it covers information from pop culture, history, accomplishments, and students will be completing this on the country of Latin America that they are assigned, and a student sample for students to see what it takes to get a good grade, and an assessment tool including a rubric, a clear rubric for students. This unit also entails various digital assessments. We start off with an entry-level assessment. Students will create a Poplet, or more like add on to a Poplet, a KWL mind map. So what they are going to do is, in groups, they're going to click on the link to access the class Poplet. They will be in groups already, and here they will be filling in information about what they know about Latin America, what they want to learn, which this part is individual, and then at the very end what they learned, and write their respective names in the middle so I know who contributed. As for the summative assessment, as you can see, both of them have a clear grading and instructions criteria. As for the summative assessment, this is where the news report channel comes into play, in which students will conclude the video by creating a Vimeo or a Novio reporting the culture of their Latin America country. I am also a big believer of incorporating fun into the learning, so I did create these activities with a learning menu that students will be able to complete. Let me show you real quick. Students will choose a drink, which is a country in Latin America that they are not presenting on. Then we have kinesthetic appetizers, which involve lots of movement or the creation of something. The dollar amount represents how many points it's worth. The total is 20 points. Then they will choose an entree that will require a little more time since it is extensive. And at the end, we have digital desserts, in which students will create something through the computer. As usual, we have scoring guides and directions on how to navigate the learning menu. This subpage provides a teacher lecture for students to preview or review it after at their leisure. We have introduction to the topic of Latin America, which explains the arrival of the Europeans to the New World and analyze the impacts that it had to its native people. This lecture is set up chronologically, has 3 progress monitoring activities, a culminating one at the end, and incorporates charts, images, videos, and instances for students to form predictions as well, and discussions. Here is the final subpage for the guided notes for students to be able to organize their information and document the most important parts. On the right hand side, we have a video for effective note-taking strategies for students, and here are the notes itself. They incorporate a variety of activities from charts, maps, timelines, along with areas of writing, predicting, brainstorming, and drawing, and lots of images.